My name is Scott Lanyon. I'm Vice Provost and Dean of Graduate Education here at the University of Minnesota. And this event, the 3-minute thesis event, is definitely a highlight of my year. This is great fun for everybody involved. If I can have that first slide, please. Let me give you a little bit of background here. The first 3-minute thesis event was actually held at the University of Queensland in Australia in 2008 with 160 graduate students involved. But this became such a great thing. News of this sort of spread, and it's been adopted by many universities, leading to an international competition starting in 2010. And now, these days, students in the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, and Hong Kong all take part in their own regional and national events. So it's really become a very popular thing.
Not going on our speaker here. I mean, I can get it on my speaker on my laptop.
If you could, everybody mute their microphones, that would be. So we have finalists from 9 very diverse fields of study representing 8 different Twin Cities colleges and University of Minnesota Duluth. The exercise cultivates students' academic presentation and research communication skills, something that's important regardless of the career path that students intend to pursue. The competition supports their capacity to effectively explain their research succinctly, but persuasively in language that's appropriate to a non-specialist audience. And the participants are really permitted to only use a single static slide. So if you've never tried this yourself, it's a real challenge to explain your research in just 3 minutes with one static slide, not allowed to use any additional prompts or media. Next slide, please. So we have a panel of judges who I'm going to introduce just here in a moment, and they will score each student to determine the winner. And let me just say now, I really don't envy the judges this task. These finalists are outstanding scholars and presenters, so this is going to be difficult. I wish you well in that, in your effort. Students are judged on a number of criteria, including comprehension of the research, the presentation of the content in a way that's accessible to a general audience, again, engagement of the audience. And of course, that's a little difficult in a Zoom environment, but everybody has learned to do that, right?
I cannot get the sound to work on here.
And enthusiasm for the subject and their communication skills generally. Next slide, please. For participating, all presenters will receive a digital badge from the graduate school, one of our gold level digital badges, and those who participated at the collegiate competitions also are receiving a maroon level badge from the graduate school. But we would be presenting 3 prizes here today. The first is a People's Choice Award, which comes with $150, and I'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later.
I tried the Sony speaker.
There's a second place prize at $250, and the first prize is $500. In addition, the first place winner will represent the University of Minnesota at the Midwest Association of Graduate Schools meeting, where there'll be a 3-minute thesis competition, and that's in Milwaukee this next spring. Next slide. So I know that everyone's a Zoom expert these days, but just a brief reminder here about some Zoom etiquette. Okay, so first, please keep yourself muted unless you're actually presenting. Also, we would recommend that you choose the side-by-side shared screen and speaker option for viewing so that you can see the slides, but also the speaker. And then if you have any questions or concerns during this event, please don't hesitate to use the chat function to chat Kate Sawada or Anna Nowak, who can help you out. Also be aware that there's a PDF of the program for the event, which includes participant bios and more information about the event itself. And there's a link here on your screen to that event. And I think Kate just chatted it as well. So Let's meet the judges, a very important component of this competition. And I've asked each judge to introduce themselves and explain a little bit about their interest in being part of the 3-minute thesis competition, and generally their view on the importance of developing effective communication skills. So we'll start with Judge Gallows.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Dylan Gallows. I am an evaluator at the Minnesota Department of Health. I'm an alum from the U of M in epidemiology. And so I've worked at the Department of Health throughout the entirety of this pandemic since April of 2020. And I can't say the number of times that I have been asked by friends and family members to explain the data, what we're doing, the importance, what works, what doesn't. It's a skill that I continue to learn, have learned, and the sooner you can start, the better. You never know when what you're going to do is going to be something you need to explain to a lay audience, and I was really excited to do this. Also, I love learning about new research, and 3-minute chunks is a great way to hear a whole lot of interesting stuff. So excited to be here today.
Next, Judge Jens.
Good morning, and thank you, everyone. I'm Sue Jens. I'm the Executive Director of the Minnesota State Arts Board, so I work for the state of Minnesota. I don't have the pleasure of being a University of Minnesota alum, but I did work at the Humphrey Institute for 8 years before I started working for the state. So I have a dear place in my heart for the University of Minnesota. I was thrilled to be asked to be part of this conversation. I've worked in marketing, communications, and PR for my entire career, and developing strong communication skills really is a bedrock skill. So thank you for offering this contest. I am not a technical person, so everything you say to me today is going to be new. I am your least knowledgeable audience member. The two things I would say that I've learned is that you can never assume that people know what you mean. Words, phrases, concepts mean different things to different people, and so much of the misunderstanding I often see is because people think they're talking about the same thing, but they aren't. The other thing that I think is true, especially now, is that virtual communication is harder than in person. So much of communication is about the nonverbal, and that often is missing in a tiny little Zoom box. So as you're thinking about, do I have the right Zoom button pushed and is my camera in the right spot? Don't forget the other kinds of your message and the way you're going to connect with your audience. I look forward to your presentations.
Thank you. Judge Kenyanya.
Thank you, Dean Lanyon. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mike Kenyanya. I'm an alum of the University, Minnesota Duluth. And Sue, by the way, you said you're not an alum. We can still give you a degree. It's not too late. So I think Scott can work with you on that. But I also have the honor of currently serving on the University Board of Regents and working at Accenture Consulting. I would typically want to thank Dean Lanyon for the invitation, but this kind of a cop-out giving us this hard job. So I'm not sure how thankful I am, but I really am looking forward to this. I'm excited to, kind of learn about all the scholarly work that you all are doing. I'm obviously serving in governance. We're always focused on governance. We don't always get a front seat at the academic mission of the university. As the other judges have said, communication is key. I mean, it can make or break something. Absolutely. For example, you could be the most qualified person for a job, but if you're not communicating that effectively in a resume, they say that people look at the resume for like 30 seconds, maybe a minute, right? And if they're not impressed, they've already kind of made an impression, right? Or your research could be life-changing. Just things that we take so obvious now, like, okay, we know smoking is bad, seatbelts are good, right? But if that wasn't communicated effectively, it would be ignored. And kind of back to what Dylan was talking about, you could have a life-saving kind of world-altering vaccine, but if you can't communicate that properly to people, we're seeing the challenges of that. Or really, on the other hand, if the people countering your point communicate better than you, which in some places they are doing that, and they're reaching people. We see the effects of that. So, the communication is key, and more so to a layperson, as we'd call ourselves, people like Sue and I, who don't understand science or your specific field of expertise. So really looking forward to this, and thank you for having me.
Now, Mike, I'll just point out that you too could go back for another degree, perhaps in the sciences, and that would take care of it.
I'll consider that. Thank you.
Next, Judge Keith.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great, thanks. Well, thank you for inviting me here today. My name is Mark Keefe. I'm director, basically, and technologist at Seagate Technology here in town. So actually my background is I was a faculty member at the University of Alabama before I decided to move to industry. So I have maybe a little bit different perspective than some, where I've kind of been on both sides of that line right now. My original training was actually in physics, and I'll admit that, at that time, we didn't worry as much about the communication, but it's certainly, I've learned through my own experiences and career in that how important this skill really is, and how good it is that it's being highlighted and taught more today. I think, you can identify, I think the other people have already touched on these, but I'll mention two things right now. First is just for your own self-benefit right now, when you talk about the work that you're doing, whether it's to a family member or your boss or a colleague, it's really important that you be able to share that information, and that they understand that, and that'll help you personally or professionally. The second reason I think is been highlighted more so in the past year and a half, and that's frankly for society's benefit. Scientific literacy is really critical in our world today, and sadly, it's not probably what it needs to be. And we need people that have experience in the sciences, that are doing good work, that can communicate that to others and to the broader, country and world as well. So this is a very valuable skill, and I think a foundational one, honestly, to supporting our democracy today. We need to be able to have good conversations and to be able to have intelligent conversations on difficult subjects. And this type of skill is central to that. So thank you very much for being here today and for inviting me to participate.
Thank you. Judge Patak.
Thank you, Dean Lanyon. Hey, everyone. My name is Yagna Patak, and I'm also really honored to be here. Really excited to listen to all the presentations. I am a research scientist with Abbott Neuromodulation, and just like the previous judges have mentioned, I cannot stress how important communication is. I recently finished my PhD, so I can understand what a lot of you guys might be going through. So I do have some experience in academia, and now I'm in industry, and I feel like in both of those settings, communicating both with people who are technically savvy, but also people who might not be experts in your field, is equally important. Because a lot of you guys already know, like, grant writing is something that is incredibly important in an academic career. But a similar skill is also required when you move into industry and need to convince the leadership that your ideas are actually worth investing in. So as you guys think about what you guys want to do next, just remember that this is going to be a really valuable experience, and I'm really excited to hear what you guys all have to present today. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. And Judge Benasuti. Oh. Oh, I was thinking we had one more judge. My apologies. So I mentioned. Next, we have the People's Choice Award. Earlier, I mentioned People's Choice Award, and for each of you attending today, you're going to have an opportunity to vote for your favorite presenter via a Zoom poll. And that'll happen after all the presentations, but I wanted to mention it up front so that you can make sure to be thinking about this as we're going through the presentations.